Here are my thoughts on the newest Drake and Party Next Door album, some sexy songs for you, reviewed from the gym. But if you want me to listen to your album at the gym next, leave in the comments and I'll get to it as soon as I can. So I don't think I need to explain the whole Drake versus Kendrick drama again, but this is Drake's first album release after the whole beef from him in 2024, and it's a collab album with Party Next Door, who's an R&B artist signed to Drake's label, OVO. Now, I'm going to try to be unbiased throughout this whole thing, as I'm admittedly a pretty big Kendrick fan, and while I do enjoy a lot of Drake's albums, I do think he's lost the beef by quite a bit, especially after Kendrick's Super Bowl and Grammy performances. He's just kind of running up the score at this point. Now, without even fully getting into this album, I think it's just a little bit weak to have your next studio album be a collab album, which is what large artists do when they're in some controversy. Just look at the whole train wreck that is Kanye and his Vultures series with Ty Dolla $ign. I feel like Drake needed to stand on business and address some of the stuff on his own, but it felt like he just hid behind the veil of an R&B album with not a lot of rapping on this. And it's also alleged that Drake stole the album cover from another similar artist after several meetings with him, even after he said no to them using it. There's also similarities with the album titles, use of dollar signs and bunnies on the alt art of this in comparison to Freddie Gibbs' last album. Now, fully just getting to the music on this, outside of all the controversy beforehand, it's pretty boring. I know it's more of an R&B album and it's going to be a bit more smoother, and there are some compelling tracks on this. There also are some pretty attention-grabbing tracks on this, but its sole purpose just felt like it was meant to be on in the background while you're doing something else. There's even some really bad bars from Drake on this, like on the track Gimme a Hug, which is a very snivelly middle school incel titled track. He says, "Fuck a rap beef, I'm trying to get the party lit." And I know you don't constantly have to bring up the beef as to not seem obsessed, but he very clearly lost and looks ridiculous on this by saying this. After begging Kendrick to drop after his first diss, then awkwardly backing out at the end of his last diss, now to this where he tries to act like it never happened, after suing UMG over the song, after making a Finsta account as a 38-year-old man posting about Madison Beer relationship drama, after doing tours in Australia and coming out with holes in his shirt and smoke following him. It's just clearly textbook victim mentality and just not owning up to his mistakes. It felt like he was trying to address it and move on very, very quickly, but given how everything went down, that's not the way it's going to happen. When Kendrick said, "Keep making me dance, wave my hand, and it won't be no threat," I feel like Drake listened to that because he backed out very quickly and tried to make a low-stakes R&B album without saying much for the girlies to dance to, and it just sounds exactly like that. As for his co-star, I think Party Next Door is fine in this. I don't think he's the greatest after cheating on Kalani and bragging about it in his lyrics afterwards, but his voice is okay, fits the vibe well. There are a few questionable tracks on this, like when they try to do like a Latin flip style track on Meet Your Padre with Drake singing in Spanish on it. Very weird choice to do that. There's even some more newer, like Y2K era dance songs on the track Nokia, which I actually thought was pretty fun, but just stood out in a weird way. But at least they were having fun with it. Overall, a very head-scratching album for me. Was this a planned release to separate Drake from the beef and align him more with the girlies? We may never know. Realistically, with no context at all going into this, it's not the worst album in the world. Some parts are competent, and I could see the appeal a bit to non-music fans who want to have this on while they're doing something else, but I feel like it was just a non-starter for me. Also, it's a terrible gym album. I know I don't really bring that up too much in this review, but I had to sit through all 80 minutes of this on a leg day, and it made it pretty tough. It's also pretty bloated, too. At over 20 tracks at like an hour, 15 minutes, it needed to be tidied up a little bit. But at least this was better than that Wangwan Delilah shit that he put out before. I think I'm going to give it like a mid 3 out of 10. It wasn't the worst album in the world, but given the whole context, it was pretty embarrassing.